Since we don't have Eric Adam anymore, it's less about the future of garbage and more about the presence of garbage. The present. Zoran Mamdani perhaps could be the president of garbage. Look at that. Wow. I guess maybe it's harder to collect garbage or probably, you know what? All the sanitation department is in charge of, I guess, removing the snow. It's pretty cold still. It's very cold. This morning it was 2 degrees Fahrenheit. Holy crap. This guy's walking around in a t-shirt. He's crazy. The garbage, it's unbelievable. Wanted to go over and check. I'm going to head down on the High Line today. See if they've plowed out that part. I guess the cold doesn't stop the weed smokage. You can smell it. I don't mind. Let people smoke weed outside. We were talking with Sal yesterday about that sheriff. I forget his name, but he's still the sheriff. Mamdani, he's changed things, but didn't get rid of the weed-stealing sheriff. That was an interesting choice, to say the least. That guy, remember, what's his last name? I forget his name. But he was going around to the illegal pot shops, scooping up the weed and the money, and just keeping it. That's a hell of a gig. And what I didn't realize that Sal mentioned yesterday is that guy is, among the friends of Jimmy Rodriguez. It's amazing. Ties into organized crime, Allegedly. That's an allegation from Sal. I think Sal has good sources, but I don't know if that's been proven. Jimmy Rodriguez, the New York City sheriff. People can look up his name. But, if that's true, Sal definitely had a photo of Letitia James with Jimmy Rodriguez. And think of the implications of that. Look, here's people still digging out their cars. Days later. It's wild. And it's not just one person. We got a bunch of people digging out their super socked in cars. They're super socked in. I saw some video of a lady, I think this was in Philadelphia though, her car was parked and then an overhead water main on an elevated train trestle or whatever burst. And her car was literally frozen solid in like inches of ice. This is it's a wild thing. So we haven't hit a record yet. The Post had an article about this, about how I guess there's a nor'easter happening now. There's no snow, no additional snow, luckily. Bryant Park is frozen up. But they said that the record, what does it say there? 1961. You had 16 days or something of below freezing temperatures. And I think we're on day 9 or something like that. But it's projected, it's going up to 31 according to the phone on Monday. I don't know if that's warm enough to melt huge amounts of snow. It's still below freezing, but sometimes I think with the sun beating down, if the ambient temperature is 31, maybe some snow can melt. Who knows? But it's a lot of snow. And the thing that doesn't stop is the social engineering. I hope people watched the show last night with Sal. If you missed it, you can check it out. It was our first sponsor exclusive show with Sal, because regular people who are trying to do this need money. And there's only a limited number of ways you can get it. You can be sponsored by, gold companies or whoever is trying to. Gold is going crazy. It was over 5,000. Now it's back under 5,000. I don't know enough about economics to say what that means, but it just seems like volatile. I don't know. It doesn't seem good to me. But yeah, you can either be sponsored, in which case the social engineers attack your sponsors and would be like, oh, gold company, Jason did this or that, don't sponsor him. Then they kick the legs out from your sponsor and you can't proceed anymore. That's why I, a long time ago, created this decentralized micro sponsorship system that's worked pretty well. Look at that. It would be nice to have a winter smoker. Looks like somebody's doing that. Look, you have barbecue tools right there. Somebody's barbecuing here in the community garden. It looks a lot nicer covered in snow than it does normally. It can be pretty junky in there. But maybe they've cleaned it up. I don't know. This is the Jeff Duella Intergenerational Garden. I guess it's a co-op, not a coop, because I don't see any chickens in there. But the point is, you, the viewers, become the individual micro sponsors, and that's the only thing that's helped keep Crowdsource the Truth going. People who sponsor on Subscribestar.com and Patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, or on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. I really appreciate people who are doing that. You keep the show going, and it allows me to, just take everybody on these walking tours to see. I mean, you can't blame Mamdani for snow, but people are pissed off at the lack of clearing it away for parking spots. I saw people getting their cars towed the other day. I forgot to mention, you can also follow me on X at JG_CSTT and sponsor there. I saw something posted on X that they're using Grok to somehow, I don't know, pay people who create long form content like videos and articles to pay more than people who just steal your thing and repost it. I mean, that was weird to me, that when I had those viral Charlie Kirk tweets about finding drones in Adam Bartholomew's video, that Hustle Bitch was able to take that and get 14 million views, and according to Grok, he's getting paid for the 14 million impressions just for relinking a thing that I had to do a lot of work and put a lot of thought into figuring out. I had to contact Adam Bartholomew, figure out what was going on in his video, produce my tweet about it. Now, to be fair, Adam Bartholomew could say, oh, I did a lot of work to make the video, but I think Adam Bartholomew and I have a good understanding and relationship. I was constantly promoting him. I helped him boost his Twitter account by mentioning him all the time. I don't know. I guess maybe Hustle Bitch did that. It just seems like there are these accounts that repost things and go viral. And it's like I was talking to Baron Coleman yesterday. I don't know if people saw that. It didn't seem to be promoted that much, but I was on Baron Coleman's subscriber YouTube channel, which I appreciate that, Baron. Thanks for having me on there. But like I said, I don't know. I didn't see it on X, or I don't know how people found out about that. I guess you subscribe to Baron and then but just talking about how different things go viral, talking about limited hangouts and attenuating certain messages, amplifying other messages. It's an interesting phenomenon. And then the thing that was happening with that Barron video today is that, George Webb can't help himself but to be, George Webb can't help himself but to be, posting about it and complaining. He says he wants equal time. First of all, he stole Barron's video. He's pointing his cell phone at his laptop, recording Barron's video and audio and putting that out. Why are you doing that, George? That's not commentary. It's not really fair use, I don't think. When Dershowitz said that they have the right to inject you against your will, people snatched that from my video. I thought it was crappy that they excised my logo, but the point is they were making commentary on Dershowitz's comment. They didn't take 30 or 38 minutes of the video and rebroadcast it in its entirety and just like snicker in the background. That's not really commentary. And these were lies coming from George. A lot of people look at this as back and forth, and frankly, it's impossible to not look at it as that. I think that's a big component of what George wants to do, get me into this online bickering with him. George, why don't you and I just have a conversation? You want to challenge things that I say. You're lying, though. George, I said in his video there, where he stole Barron's video, that I got him arrested over the port of Charleston. First of all, that was George's brother's initial beef with me, was that I had gotten George arrested and George's brother was going to vindicate him by having me arrested. That was George's brother's original 2017 beef with me. And now George is bringing that back. The reason I want to talk about this is because, again, not George, not to have this back and forth bickering, stupid beef with a drunk moron like George. It's to educate people in the ways of social engineers so that when someone tries to fool you, you will know and you won't get fooled. Like The Who. You won't get fooled again. Roger Daltrey. Are those guys still alive? They need to have another Who reunion. I feel like my age in my life, it was always the Who having reunions. The last, who's last and who's next and who's really, honestly, truthfully now last forever kind of thing. But anyway, they just won't give up, And so I see all these people. Could they possibly be this stupid to just believe the lies? If you are a person who watches George Webb, or Blake Bednar's for that matter, there are many other people, but let's stay with these two for now, and you think they're telling you something that is true or worth listening to, you should demand evidence. Whoever it is, in fact, even what I'm telling you right now. Just because something appeals to your biases, you shouldn't just automatically accept it as true. Here's a good example that's broader than George and Blake and any beefs that I might have. It does look like they've opened it. That's good news.
Story time.
See what's going on down here. This end of the High Line. So at least our city tax dollars are at work digging out the snow on the High Line. Boy, it is cold air. You get a little short of breath on the steps. So George is saying that I made a phone call that got him arrested. He says, I never called anyone. I never tweeted anything. That was George's brother's initial beef too, trying to make a big deal in court about the fact that I had tweeted something, which George was the one imploring me to tweet about this thing. I didn't know anything about the Maersk Memphis or this illicit radiological material until George called into the show. This is all on video on my X timeline. I can't replay a 3-hour video on this video, but if you go on to X to @JG_CSTT, and you can use the search function on X. It was called Calm Before the Storm, Maersk Memphis, something like that. And it's a almost 3-hour video of me on a Skype call at the time. Back in the day, before Zoom was invented, you had to crank it up with your hand. It was a Skype call, and George calls in And George introduces all this information. I didn't know anything about it. And he's telling me, somebody's got to call the Coast Guard. Now he would have you believe that because I called the Coast Guard, and he's imploring me, he's like, tweet, he's telling me what to tweet. And like a naive idiot, I listened to him. I didn't know these things then. I certainly wouldn't listen to him now. But he prompted me to do all this stuff. And now he's saying I got him arrested. George's brother wrote a whole lawsuit saying that I was doing a DDoS attack on the Twitter system of the Coast Guard or something, and tried to make the tweet. I mean, you know, they come up with these legal theories and they try to fixate on them. And George is doing the same thing again now. So, I mean, I see a lot of people in the comments, maybe they're real accounts, maybe they're fake accounts, I don't know. Me talking now, this is an appeal to real people with real brains in their heads, that you should use your discernment when listening to someone like George or someone like Blake. And by saying someone like them, I mean lying social engineers, people who are clearly lying. I haven't blocked either of them. I'm open to having a discussion, a debate, talking about this. They will refuse to do it. George has repeatedly refused. He will not stand up to direct communication about this because he needs to obfuscate. He needs to say things like, I never tweeted about it. I never called any agency about it. I've never worked for any government. Well, that's why I've said he works for or with or as a contractor to or adjacent to the FBI, the DHS, Security Alliance, LLC, something like that. That's what I'm saying. So he'll continue to lie, frankly, put out these false statements, and their intent is to defame me. The other thing that he said that I heard on his stupid video this morning that consisted of stolen content from Baron Coleman was that he was asking for equal time because Baron had chosen to speak with me about whatever questions he had about social engineering, whatever his motivation was. He told us on the video he had certain questions that he wanted to ask and have answered. Baron is not an FCC licensed television station in the 1980s that or 70s, whenever it was that I think Bill Clinton eliminated the equal time. That's a concept from the past, which Barron is under no obligation to honor. So, George, you want equal time? Let's have a discussion. We can do it on your channel with an audience favorable to you. You can select a third party to host it. Peter Duke, any moron that is favorable towards you. We'll have a conversation. And I'm going to corner you on all of these things that you've been lying about. That's why you don't want to do it. Because George is like a magician. You know, if you hold up a curtain and hide certain things behind it, you can make the audience believe that rabbits are coming out of hats and the Statue of Liberty is disappearing, etc. Blake is doing the same thing. Blake has a whole tweet up with a phone call. It's a series of phone calls, actually, that he's edited in a very deceptive way. Blake is proving my points all by himself. He's not providing evidence. He's providing edited content that's intended to deceive people into believing whatever it is he's trying to get them to believe. How's this park down here? Pretty snowed over. What is this an ad for? Devo RCE? I mean, that's bizarre. Mother Teresa and Gandhi. It's pretty darn cold out, I have to say. My fingers are getting cold. But I want to check out Diddle Island. Barry Diller's New York City equivalent of Epstein Island. And that's what I want to tie this back to, is this manipulation of evidence, George is manipulating evidence in that he's saying, I never called the Coast Guard. I never tweeted about this. No, but you spent 2.5 hours convincing me to do it. And I had nothing to do with George getting arrested. He's trying to convince people that I had George arrested. And I see the comments there. Again, I don't know if these are real people or fake people, but his comments are saying, oh, who's the Fed?
Oh, excuse me.
Sorry. But George got arrested because he was drunk in his car on the side of the road. I didn't call anybody about George. I didn't say anything about George. I called the Coast Guard and said, I'm calling about and they said, dirty bomb, we know. And that was it. That's where they screwed up their little plan. They wanted me to say, I'm calling about the dirty bomb. Then they would have spent the last 9 years saying, oh, Jason did a bomb hoax. But they realized that failed. They can't succeed on lying to people about that. The New York Times even reported George Webb, mentioned him 1 million times, didn't say anything about me other than giving the image credit to me because they took it from my YouTube channel. And I think they did that out of an abundance of caution because they really didn't want me to bring any legal action whatsoever, because it would have put the whole thing under scrutiny in court, which they did not want. So the FBI said, oh, we've opened an investigation. They went and spoke to George in jail, who was put there by the Zanesville, Ohio police, who found him drunk in his car and charged him with failure to control the vehicle. I had nothing to do with that. I bailed him out of jail. George is the most ungrateful, lying. What George should do is just go away, leave me alone, never speak about me, stop spreading lies about me, stop defaming me. This is all I want these guys to do. I would prefer to not speak about them, but they won't let that happen. And again, for anyone who thinks, oh, this is some petty bickering beef, that's not it. This is a network of social engineers who are unnaturally fixated on me, not because of anything having to do with me personally. Oh, you're jealous of clicks, they're jealous of this, who's that? It's nothing like that. This is an organized operation of people who have been trying to do something for the past 9 years and continue to try to do it. That's what my discussion with Barron was about yesterday. He asked me, how do I figure out who is a social engineer? Look, these are my opinions that I'm sharing. George says a lot of things stated as facts that are just clearly wrong. Because when I say something is my opinion, it's because I want you to form your own opinion about what I'm saying. These are my opinions based on facts as I've seen them. If George had confidence in the things that he was stating, he'd, instead of going and telling, oh, Barron, I want equal time, George, talk to me about it. Why do you need to talk to Barron about it? You're making allegations against me, false allegations. So let's talk about it. Why won't you? Yeah, let's go down here and we'll go check out the ice. Holy crap, you can see it from here. Ice flows. It flows through the nose. Can we see that? Sure you can. Look at that. Wow. Yeah, no, we got to walk over there and check that out. That's amazing. I've never seen that in New York before. So this is 9 days of sustained sub-zero temperatures. Remember, for our friends in Europe, I'm talking Fahrenheit, 6 degrees, whatever it is right now. It's super cold. And it was like 2 this morning. It's pretty cold. Oh, we're back over by Tesla here. When are they going to start selling the robots? He said he's canceling Model S and Model X and converting the Fremont, California factory to build robots. I want one. People are like, no, Charles is very anti-robot. He's like, are you crazy? I wouldn't have that robot in my house. I mean, I get it. I don't know. I want a robot. Clean the place and do the laundry. I would like bicycle fighting robots. They had those in China. Short little ones that were boxing with the guy on the bicycle. That was fantastic in my view. Oh yeah, but remember when Elon Musk was like, oh hey Donald Trump, you're in the Epstein files. And then now we have, I don't know, was it an email from Elon Musk? We got to look at those Epstein files very carefully, because you know what is funny is that it does seem like some aspects of it are certainly very hoax-like. They fit into this whole social engineering, theme that I'm talking about today. And that's why I made the thumbnail image Bill Gates with a super hot Russian model in the frozen tundra here, because everyone was all over X like, oh, Bill Gates got an STD from Russian models and was Russian hookers or whatever, and he was trying to get some, I don't know, antibiotics or something from Epstein. But the thing that was pretty interesting about that is, if you go and look at here's the actual email. And this is not really an email. This is written from Jeffrey Epstein to Jeffrey Epstein. So, I mean, even if it was from Jeffrey Epstein to Bill Gates, has Bill Gates confirmed any of this? Not that I like Bill Gates. I think Bill Gates is an absolute jackass. Not trying to defend him, just looking at the facts of the evidence here. So that's what I mean. Just because something appeals to your bias, it's not really a good reason to just automatically accept it as true, no matter who it's about. So I just wonder, wouldn't Jeffrey Epstein have an interest in writing these emails to do exactly this, put it out and use it to smear Bill Gates? Let's get close up to the ice flows up the nose. Holy cow. Wow. That is super frozen. I mean, I don't recommend walking on it or anything like that. Somebody had a video of some boat stuck out there on the Hudson, and two people had to walk on the ice to get rescued or whatever. It's frozen tundra here in New York City. It's really something else, huh? Has anybody ever seen it like that before? I haven't. We got rooftop sushi over here. Maybe good in the warm weather. I haven't been there. Miru. Sounds all right. Rooftop sushi. Rooftop park. I haven't been up there at all. I wonder, I don't know if it's open right now. It's pretty freezing cold. We'll check out Diddle Park, Diddle Island. Just for a moment, my fingers are getting super cold. So yeah, I mean, this is the type of stuff that George and Blake and Jeffrey Epstein, all social engineers, all manipulators of facts, this is what they do. They take some piece of evidence, like, this Port of Charleston thing happened, or Blake has these phone calls to his office, but why is he editing them? Why is he manipulating them? I guess it's like that because the water is moving. It's almost like frozen waves. He's editing it. What Blake should do is he should really prepare that stuff for court. Blake, you keep advancing this defamatory claim that I harassed you, and you're talking about Anons started calling you, threatening your family. I think you've even said previously that I gave out your phone number and that those anons called you. That is untrue. And I'm calling on you now to cease and desist from saying those things, retract those statements, and publicly apologize, because I did not do that. I did not harass you. Chris Martenson told me that you had disproven my theory and that I owed you the evidence bounty and that I should contact you and pay you the money. And in the effort to do that, I contacted you at your office, and they gave me your cell phone number and told me to call you. That's not harassment. That's calling you to provide you with a bounty. I was going to pay you money if you had satisfied the bounty. You even spoke to me on the phone voluntarily. Why did you edit out all of that? You are deceptively manipulating evidence, as I allege you've done throughout this Charlie Kirk investigation. So that's why I'm telling people about this. Now, wait a minute. Is this a new thing up here? Maybe not. Like I said, I don't care about George or Blake so long as they aren't attempting to defame me and damage my reputation. The second they start doing that, I have a right to defend myself. The other thing that George is saying, he's like, oh, look at all those cases where Jason is the plaintiff. There are far, far fewer cases where I am a plaintiff than there are where I am a defendant. And by the way, I was never in court before George's brother and the menagerie of morons that surround them started suing me. I'm trying to get them to leave me alone, which is why I'm suing them now. So this is their basic method of operation. George calls me and says, oh, there's dangerous radioactive material on board the Maersk Memphis. Somebody better do something. That motivates me to do something. And then he says, oh, look what Jason did. Chris Martenson says, Blake Bednarz has satisfied the evidence bounty. You better call him and give him the money. I call Blake, and he says, oh, look, Jason's harassing me. So, this is all manufactured nonsense. And I'm talking about it now because people have a right to know. You're subscribing to these guys on YouTube or wherever, and your clicks, your subscriptions, the money that you send, they're essentially defrauding you, as far as I can tell. Ice flows, people. So I don't know, how long does it take for that kind of thing to melt? I guess it doesn't matter right over here. Not really bothering anybody, but I think it's impeding boats. But this is what these guys do. They're inducing people fraudulently to do things. That's cool, right? Here on Diddle Island. Fraudulently inducing people to do things in the same way that Epstein is right there. He's like, oh, Bill, thanks for asking me not to tell anyone about all those Russian hookers. And Bill Gates could be on the other end of that email like, what are you talking about? Again, I'm not defending Bill Gates. I'm just looking at this evidence with a skeptical eye, as I encourage everyone to do with all evidence. Otherwise, you just believe anything. How do we like that? Not something that you see every day, is it? There's something else I wanted to say about this that's slipping my mind right now. Oh yeah, Blake. So you're telling Twitter about, or X, how I'm harassing you, according to you. Why don't you contact the police and file a report if you think there's harassment? Let's have the police handle it. You've got experience with filing false reports with the police, don't you? That's what the evidence that I found from the Lubbock, Texas criminal whatever website, texas.gov, You said, that's AI, that's fake. Well, if it is, it's fake AI made by the Lubbock criminal whatever, because that's a Texas government website that purports to have your criminal records. And I'm not digging them up to smear Blake. I'm digging them up as additional evidence to support my claims that Blake is a serial liar and fraudster. So he's planning on doing some big video, I guess, tomorrow, where he's going to respond to me. Again, Blake, we could get on the phone, we could get on a live stream, and you can defend all these things. You told me you were going to get on a Zoom call and show us all how you use ChatGPT with frames to locate high contrast dots in Adam Bartholomew's video that you said were drones. But they're not drones. They're all bugs and birds. And see, again, Blake, they're like, oh, Jason's playing a victim. I'm not playing a victim. I'm pointing out that I didn't know who these guys were. George, I knew who he was. I've admitted from the beginning that I was watching George on YouTube, and I contacted him when he asked about Lee Stranahan's phone number. He now is, what has he got to say about that? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that was just a coincidence. It's a remarkable coincidence that George, he didn't really address what I was saying about him hiding from that girl, Louisa, the fact that he started his journalism career, according to what he told me, in Portland around the Muhammad Christmas tree bomber incident. He told her he started his journalism career looking into Imran Awan. I mean, these stories don't match. Why? Is he lying? Is he forgetting? Is he changing the story? He said he didn't know who Valerie Caproni was. Well, that doesn't matter. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying she was involved in the Muhammad story. And it might be true that at the outset of that he didn't know who Valerie Caproni was. But that's not the question. He said that Andrew McCabe was targeting him or something like that. And, he had a whole screwy story about the FBI. What I'm getting at is, seems like his involvement with the FBI is quite different than what he wants people to believe, or at least what he wants Louisa to believe. Oh, now wait a minute, does it have the wrong thumbnail there? People are worried that a robot army will rise. Well, I definitely don't want that. But if they're doing the laundry, it might not be bad. Yeah, Blake's doing a live stream soon. When did Bush come to Newark? What are you talking about? There's a lot of questions that George and Blake refuse to answer. And Blake is doing a live stream soon. What I'm proposing is that Blake should get on a live stream with me and address these specific questions. I mean, they don't want to do that. Blake and George, they want to have these one-way conversations where they control the live stream. I'm not there to answer their false allegations. They don't need to present any evidence. They just say whatever they want. And there's an audience of either fake commenters or very gullible people who support what they're saying, don't question or challenge any of their claims. And it just doesn't seem to be a very legitimate way to present or scrutinize evidence. Here we have some international folks taking pictures of all the deep freeze. I don't blame them. It's cold as hell. And here you have the Hyundai Genesis showroom. Somebody says, have I seen the device mounted at the back of the Charlie Kirk canopy? You mean the camera or the thing that falls down? There's a little piece of black something that falls down, seems like several seconds after Charlie Kirk is shot. My first instinct is that might be somebody bumping into the tent and somebody gets knocked off the tent. Bush Sr. visited Newark, somebody says here. Wait. During the campaign against Clinton. Oh, you met him. Well, Bush Sr., he's a jackass. right? Seems to me. Here's the Tesla headquarters for New York that Zoran Mamdani was protesting. Do they have robots in here? There's one. Yeah, so they're going to get rid of there's a Cybertruck. They're going to get rid of the Model S and start building robots. I will buy a robot. I would like to. Definitely have it do all kinds of work. Here's another Cybertruck. I guess they keep them all down here. So, I mean, my thing is, I'll answer any question. I haven't blocked either of those guys. And I have evidence. I'm not editing phone calls. Blake manipulated that little phone call to support his false narrative in the same way that he's manipulated evidence in the Charlie Kirk investigation to seemingly support a false narrative. I don't know why people want to defend that. Barron was defending that yesterday. I mean, okay, I get it. You don't want to come to a conclusion about somebody right away. But at a certain point, the preponderance of evidence that somebody is an absolute serial fraudster and liar. What is that? New store. It just becomes overwhelming. Blake is a serial liar. And people have been asking me if they'll be able to see that Barron interview on the Crowdsource the Truth sponsorship channels. I have asked him to provide me with a copy, and he said he would. So people should be able to do that. See, that woman just looked at me. I didn't even need to say anything to her. She knows she shouldn't be riding that on the sidewalk with her kid, particularly not in the snow where the sidewalks are narrowed. But I do believe Barron's going to send a copy of that video. And then for sponsors on subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth or crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, or people who follow me on X at JG_CSTT. I will post it so people can watch it. It was a 2.5 hour, very lengthy discussion. We spoke about social engineers. We spoke about John Cullen. But this is what these guys want to do. They try to, provoke some kind of situation and then say, oh, look at what he did. They say, Jason, you better call the Coast Guard. And then they say, oh, Jason called the Coast Guard. They spent 2.5 hours convincing me to call the Coast Guard. And I had nothing to do with George getting arrested. People should demand that he speak to me about this, or either that or lose confidence in him. I'll speak to him. I'll answer any question that he has. I spoke with Barron yesterday about the fact that, the statement that I'll answer any question directly, it doesn't mean that I'm going to host any person on my YouTube channel. I've had people contact me who I just find to be crazy and a waste of time to talk to and not interesting. But I don't go on and on for 9 years. This is outdoor dining simplified. No food, no tables. Just that. It's the simplicity. But the point is, I don't spend 9 years talking about those people ad nauseum, posting response videos to them, using their likeness in a thumbnail graphic, and then block them and refuse to speak to them. That alone should be obvious to anyone that it's a social engineering tactic, These people who I'm talking about, I don't even remember their names, because there's one guy who is frequently, I don't know about frequently, but once or twice, saw him pop up on Twitter, on X, saying, Jason's a jerk. I called him with the solution to the questions of the universe, and he didn't want to talk to me. Well, that's what I'm saying. I spoke to the guy for a few minutes on the phone. He was a rambling idiot. I'm not disparaging him because I don't even know his name. I'm not telling you his name. I just decided this, he said something that was sufficiently intriguing. So I said, let's have a phone call. That's like the first step of determining if someone is interesting and worth talking to. You get on the phone, you talk to them, and if he's an idiot for 5 minutes, I just said, look, you know what? I don't think this is going to work out. Goodbye. And then he started posting some, negative crap. And I blocked him. And then he's like, oh, Jason blocked me. It's like, well, maybe if you weren't such an annoying idiot, that wouldn't have happened. But like I'm saying, I'm not going on and on posting that person by name, posting a picture of their face, defaming them, lying about them. George and Blake are two primary examples of people who can't stop talking about me, posting about me, defaming me, but will not talk to me directly. This guy who I don't want to talk to, I told him that because I don't want to talk to him. And I'm not carrying on. Even in the case of someone who I've mentioned specifically, I'm not doing extensive videos about John Bray. I've just made it known that when he was asking me back in the day to come on my channel and share his theory, I said, no, I don't think that's a correct theory, and I don't really want to talk about it or share it. Now that other people have elevated that theory, I'm saying, okay, you're going to give this guy screen time to talk about his theory. Why don't we have a conversation about why it's incorrect? And they say, no. So, all right, these aren't people who are interested in actually examining facts. They're interested in amplifying one story and attenuating another. That's social engineering. Okay? So what I'm doing, I think, is very consistent, and I have a purpose. I want to understand the truth. I want to help other people understand the truth. When liars, provable liars, like George and Blake come along, I want to help people understand that they are lying. George says I got him arrested, or he implies that something to do with the Port of Charleston incident involved me getting him arrested is absurd. He says, I never called any agency. Well, he called me. You see, this is another social engineering tactic to do these indirect things. And that's why I said, how did George come up with the notion? Like, I would get to a series of questions that would get around his social engineering crap. He says, this whole thing about somebody getting me to contact George and make it look like I contacted him. First of all, the fact that he repeats that ad nauseum when I haven't denied it makes me think it's part of his social engineering. I have never denied that I contacted him. I've stated the reason, the purpose, the timing. He can't deny any of that. His videos were terrible. He was doing it today, pointing a cell phone at a laptop. That was his original format. And I just said, hey, I think your content is interesting, but your video production quality is terrible. Why don't we team up? He now is positioning that as I somehow followed him or targeted him. That's not it at all. And frankly, if he hadn't tried to get me arrested by the FBI and acted like a drunk idiot, people see what I've been doing for the past 9 years. I form these alliances with people, make them into co-hosts on my show, help them earn money, help me earn money. This is an honest and legitimate way to conduct a YouTube channel. I'm not trying to target anybody. And then George was denying all that stuff. He says he hasn't spoken to his brother in 6 years. George, I have emails that you've responded to your brother. So let's speak very particularly. You haven't communicated with him in any way in 6 years? Is that what you're trying to say? Or you haven't sat with him face to face and had a conversation? By the way, 6 years, so that means 3 years ago you were in communication with, that means that 3 years after you and I knew each other, you were in communication with him. That's smack dab in the middle of when he was suing. He's still suing me. So what are you saying, George? The reason George doesn't want to have this kind of direct conversation is because he would be proven, I believe, because he would be proven to be a liar. I have emails that George has sent in response to his brother. Okay? How did George's brother know that George had initiated a lawsuit against CNN in Michigan 6 days after it began? And plus, I think he mailed that filing. So that would mean he knew 3 days after the lawsuit was filed. How did he type his whole thing and get it mailed in? It feels very coordinated. The other thing I've heard George say is that, oh, how many more people would have gone to jail if Jason hadn't disrupted that CNN lawsuit? Nothing I did played a role in the judge dismissing that lawsuit. George got it dismissed because he failed to state a claim. He had a defective case because he's an idiot who has no idea what he's doing and then lies to people and tells you he's making $8 a month? How is that possible? Where does he live? How does he purchase food? You can't buy lunch for $8. So his CNN case got dismissed because the professional law firm that CNN hired to defend them filed a motion to dismiss in which they said he's failed to state a claim. And he was not able to cure the fatal defects in the case, and the judge dismissed it. I was talking about something else. His brother was trying to intervene and move the case to New York so he could sue me. Because that's all that case was ever about, as far as I can tell. George never had a legitimate case against CNN. And George, why did you sue CNN in Michigan rather than New York or Atlanta, where they're headquartered? It's very weird. He also would have people believe that he ended the Podesta group or something by bringing a lawsuit. That's another defective lawsuit that never went anywhere. He had nothing to do with doing anything to the Podesta group or the Podesta whatever it was he was talking about. George is literally a moron who cannot write a proper lawsuit, cannot form a legally cognizable claim, and then just goes and makes videos saying nonsense that I guess people believe. It's kind of astounding to me. But he won't have a conversation with me because all of this would come out and he would be made to look a fool. And let's presume for a moment that I'm wrong, that he's not working for, contracted to, helping in some way, or adjacent to FBI, DHS, some private firm contracted with those things, some array of connections that causes him to carry out things favorable to those agencies. Let's presume I'm wrong about that. He's at least a lying moron, at very least. And there's no doubt about that. And that would be proven in a conversation, which is exactly why he doesn't want to have a conversation with me. Because any person who really wants to get to the bottom of this would either engage with me directly or drop it completely, not go making videos. He had more nonsense about porno. What happened to the sound there? Audio source changed. He's saying, when I brought up Lee Stranahan, that it was to do with porno. That's false. And there's a video of Lee and Ken Stranahan at my Lightwave Expo New York in 1990, maybe 1996. No, I think it was 1996. And he's there in the video. I've shown it on my show. It's probably somewhere on Twitter. Lightwave 3D was the software. Lightwave Expo New York was the event. Lee and his brother worked on Babylon 5. Now, Lee has never hidden the fact that separately and later in his career, he was a photographer and he did a lot of nude photography. I had nothing to do with that. I don't think it was pornography as far as I know. It was just individual naked women. But that was separate from anything I was doing with him. You know, so that's what I'm saying. Just like Blake takes something other than it acts. He takes a unrecent mashes a thing that and all be a concerning view are lying to you.